More than 100 academicians write to Prime Minister Modi supporting the decision to conduct JEE NEET exams. Over 7 lakh JEE main admit cards and more than 6 lakh NEET undergraduate admit cards downloaded. 41st GST Council meeting scheduled for today. Council to discuss a single point agenda of compensation to states. Monsoon fury across the country. Central team to visit flood-affected districts in Assam, Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir and Gujarat reel under heavy rains. Heavy rains forecast for parts of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Jharkhand. Some respite from floods in Bihar. In Kerala gold smuggling case, NIA conducts search operations, seize digital devices and incriminating documents. 4 more arrests made, taking total arrests made so far to 20. COVID recovery rate in the country improves further to 76.3%. CGHS starts tele-consultation services through e-Sanjeevani in Delhi and NCR. More than 2 crore and 43 lakh cases across the world. United States braces for Hurricane Laura after its destructive trail in the Caribbean, killing 24 and rendering hundreds homeless. Lakhs of people under mandatory evacuation in Texas and Louisiana. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news. I'm Rukma and our top story. Over 100 academics have written a letter to the Prime Minister supporting the conduct of JEE NEET in the hope that students will not lose a year. In the letter, they said that like every year, this year too, millions of students have passed their Class 12 exams and are waiting eagerly at home to take the next step. They also said that delaying the medical and engineering entrance exams, the JEE mains and NEET any further will mean compromising the future of students. The academicians added that some are trying to play with the future of students by opposing the government's decision to propel their own political agenda. They expressed the hope that the central government will successfully conduct the exams, taking full precautions to ensure that the future of students is taken care of and the academic calendar for 2020 to 21 is rolled out. Students have welcomed the decision to hold the joint entrance examination mains between 1st and 6th September and the National Eligibility cum Entrance Test undergraduate on the 13th. The National Testing Agency has begun issuing admit cards. It has issued an advisory of social distancing. The government says it is making all necessary preparations for the holding of the exams. Here's a report.
The National Testing Agency began issuing admit cards on its website. More than 4 lakh NEET admit cards were downloaded within the first 3 hours alone. On the other hand, more than 85% of candidates for the JEE main exam had downloaded the admit card. In the weeks leading up to the declaration of dates for the 2 examinations on Tuesday, there was a lot of speculation about whether they should be postponed in view of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are happy with the response that we are getting from the candidate. In case of JEE main, it has been some 3-4 days. Out of 8.58 lakh candidates, about 7.38 lakh candidates have already downloaded their admit cards. Similarly, in case of NEET UG, we have more than 4 lakh candidates downloading their admit cards. So there it seems that candidates are prepared, they are wanting to come to the examination center.
The NTA said the exams had been postponed once already in July at the request of the students. New dates were announced for September to protect the interests of the students and to preserve the integrity of the academic calendar. Accordingly, the JEE main would be held from the 1st to the 6th of September and the NEET UG on 13th September. care has been taken to protect the candidates from COVID-19 and an SOP has been issued in this regard.
We have increased the number of centers. In case of NEET, the number of centers from last time's 2,546, these centers have been increased to 3,842. The examination center floor, its walls, they are going to be, and the computers if they are, and the staircases, the hand railings, the wheelchairs, everything that is going to be used in the exam, they will be completely sanitized. We have also increased the number of invigilators.
Some had moved the Supreme Court seeking postponement of exams, but the court made it clear that it found absolutely no justification in the prayer made for postponement of the examinations. This after it said that students should not be made to forfeit an academic year. Only after the court verdict did the NTA get into the act and announce the exam dates. Union Education Minister Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has said that parents and students were in favor of holding the exams, and even the court said the same in its verdict.
Compensation for loss of revenue arising from the implementation of GST. It is a single agenda meeting only. The agenda points for the next meeting to be held in September are also likely to be decided today. The centre had been releasing compensation to states in tranches. Compensation worth 1,15,096 crore was released for the April to November 2019 period. The second tranche of 36,400 crore rupees was released for the December 2019 to February 2020 period for states and union territories. The centre had released 69,275 crore rupees in 2018 to 19 and 41,146 crore rupees in 2017 to 18 as compensation for GST. Joining us now is our correspondent Ajay Mishra to give us more details about this meeting today. Ajay, give us a sense of the significance of this meeting. When we talk about compensation for loss of revenue arising from the implementation of GST, what does it mean?
So it's a very crucial meeting between the state and the centre, because we know that there are 4 slabs of GST rate to compensate the states for any loss of revenues, there is another category of sin good tax which is used to compensate the revenue loss for the state. It has been noted that these are not normal times; these are very difficult times, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the compensation kitty has not collected so much of resources to actually compensate the adequate revenues to the state kitty. So now today's meeting is going to deliberate 2-3 options. Option number 1, whether the centre should borrow from the RBI to actually compensate from the state. Point number 2, whether the state should be allowed to go for borrowing and they will be compensated subsequently when the compensation kitty is going to collect more revenues in the future years. Thirdly, is it possible to include some more items into the sin tax kitty to actually raise the compensation assessed in these difficult times? So these are 3 different options where the legal opinion has been sought, and it has been said by the Central Council that the central government is not constitutionally bound to borrow in this case. So there are various options which will be discussed. Yes, it is very crucial meeting because states are also asking for the compensation of the states. They have been paid full compensation for the last year, but this year this fiscal is very crucial and very tough for the centre also, because there is not much coming into the compensation PT, which is only the sin good tax. So there are various options that are going to be discussed, and obviously from the state point of view, it's very, very crucial.
Right. So, well, what we can expect is that they will be discussing, for once, it's a single agenda meeting. Clearly, they will be discussing one major issue. And also, you've explained, thank you very much for giving us those details about what it means and how crucial this meeting is. Moving on, a central team will be assessing the extent of damage due to floods in Assam. Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir and Gujarat are reeling meanwhile under heavy rainfall. A red alert has been sounded for some districts of Odisha as well. Heavy rains have been forecast for parts of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Jharkhand. Some respite from floods in Bihar. Here's a report.
These images are from different parts of the country where the rivers are in spate after heavy rainfall. In some places, normal life has been thrown out of gear due to floods. In Gujarat, several parts of the state have been receiving incessant rainfall in the past few days. So far, Gujarat has received 107% rainfall this season. Many districts received 4 to 9 inches of rain. Abdasa in Kutch district, rainwater flooded the houses of many people in the area, whereas in Junagadh, contact with many villages was lost due to heavy rain, bringing people to a standstill. Meanwhile, local administration and NDRF teams are working round the clock for relief and rescue operations. In Assam, the 6-member central team to assess the flood situation held discussions with top government officials of the state. The team sent by the centre comprises officials from Jal Shakti Ministry, Agriculture Ministry, Road Transport and Highways Ministry and Finance Ministry. In the coming days, the central team will assess the condition of various dams and rivers in the state. The team will visit the affected areas and assess the overall damage done to life, property and crops due to floods. 3 waves of floods have affected around 57 lakh people this year in the state. Heavy rain wreaked havoc across Jammu region, causing damage to residential homes and increasing water levels of several rivers. In Rajouri, also water level increased in Sukto and Darhali rivers. This caused damage to several homes and roads in the district. Meanwhile, the Met Office has issued a landslide warning in the hilly areas of Jammu and Kashmir. In Bihar, there is a sigh of relief as the water level of Ganga river has seen a receding trend. But in 130 blocks of 16 districts in the state, people are still facing the flood fury. Over 5,000 people have taken shelter in relief camps. 174 community kitchen centers have been set up to provide food to affected people. According to the Met Office, there has been heavy rainfall in the catchment areas of Bagmati and Adwara rivers in Nepal. This will increase the water level in these rivers in Bihar. Ganga, Kosi, Bagmati and Gandak are flowing above the danger mark in many places. In Rajasthan, the monsoon is still active. So far, the state has received only 5% less rainfall than the average rainfall. Normal rainfall has been reported in 22 districts of the state, while 3 districts have received above normal rainfall. In Odisha, many places are receiving heavy to very heavy rainfall. Due to heavy rain in Jajpur and Keonjhar, rivers are in spate, while waterlogging on roads have made things worse for people. Meanwhile, the Met Office has said that heavy to very heavy rainfall may occur in 7 districts of the state in the coming days.
अभी हमारा जो वेलमार्क लो प्रेशर एरिया जो नॉर्थ बे ऑफ बंगाल पे था, अभी थोड़ा सा मूव किया है. अभी नॉर्थ वेस्ट बे ऑफ बंगाल एडजॉइनिंग हमारा नॉर्थ उड़ीसा कोस्ट एंड वेस्ट बंगाल कोस्ट का पास है. तो इसका प्रभाव अभी और भी 24 आवर्स तक ज़्यादा रहेगा. तो अगला 24 आवर्स के लिए हमारा जो फोरकास्ट है, उड़ीसा का सभी डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में, सभी जगह में मध्यम मॉडरेट बारिश होने का चांसेस है. और वार्निंग जो है हेवी टू वेरी हेवी रेनफॉल मेनी प्लेसेस में आपका कुछ डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में होगा, और उसका साथ एक्सट्रीमली हेवी रेनफॉल भी होगा. ये मेनली हमारा वेस्टर्न उड़ीसा का नॉर्थर्न पोर्शन में और साउदर्न पोर्शन में भी इसका वार्निंग है.
The Met Office has forecast very heavy rainfall over east, north and central India during the next 5 days. IMD has also issued a red warning for Odisha and for Chhattisgarh. It said a low pressure area, cyclonic circulation over North Bay of Bengal and its neighborhood is very likely to move west-northwestwards during the period, as it issued a red alert for Odisha and Chhattisgarh. With inputs from Duina in Guwahati, Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, in Jammu area, an individual was stranded on a marooned island inside the overflowing river south of Naushera district, Rajouri, due to incessant rains. Indian Army, along with Civil Administration and Jammu and Kashmir Police, undertook rescue operations, under which 2 Garur Special Forces commandos evacuated the individual to the nearest landing ground available at Nowshera Army area and was handed over to the civil authorities for further treatment. Indian Air Force responded swiftly, rescuing the individual before the water level could rise to dangerous levels during the night. And in continued investigations into the Kerala gold smuggling case, the National Investigation Agency yesterday conducted searches at the homes of the accused in Malappuram and Kozhikode districts. The searches were also conducted in the homes of Malabar Jewellery, owned by arrested accused Abu Bakr, Amin Gold in Malappuram, owned by arrested accused Abdul Hamid, and Ambi Jewellery, Kozhikode, owned by accused Shamsuddin. During the searches, several digital devices and incriminating documents were seized. The 3 persons, Abu Bakr, Abdul Hamid and Shamsuddin, were arrested on August 24th for conspiring with other arrested accused persons. They had also financed smuggling of gold through import cargo addressed to the UAE consulate at Thiruvananthapuram, besides receiving such smuggled gold and proceeds from the smuggling. So far, NIA has arraigned 25 accused in the case, out of whom 20 have been arrested. And now let's take a look at updates on COVID-19 from various states across the country. In Karnataka, 8,580 new cases of coronavirus were recorded in the past 24 hours. 133 patients died yesterday too. The state now has a total of 83,608 active cases of coronavirus. In Tamil Nadu, 5,958 persons tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. 118 patients died of COVID, while 5,606 were discharged in the past 24 hours. In national capital Delhi, 1,693 persons tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. 17 patients died of COVID, while 1,154 were discharged in the past 24 hours. Delhi now has a total of 12,520 active cases of coronavirus. The Narcotics Control Bureau has filed a case against Riya Chakraborty and others, including her brother Souvik Chakraborty, under various sections of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. The case has been registered in Delhi. The sections under which the case has been filed pertain to punishment for contravention in relation to cannabis plant and cannabis, punishment for contravention in relation to psychotropic substances, punishment for consumption of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, and punishment for abetment and criminal conspiracy. Meanwhile, in another development, Narcotics Control Bureau busted 3 drug syndicates involved in trafficking of MDMA pills. The total seizure of 4,317 MDMA pills along with 180 LSD blots and an amount of 2,20,500 rupees was made by NCB in Mumbai and Bengaluru. Today, NCB Delhi team will leave for Mumbai. In international news, Hurricane Laura is expected to cause an unsurvivable storm surge, extreme winds and flash floods as it hits the United States. The National Hurricane Center says Laura was upgraded to a Category 4 storm as it approached the coast of Texas and Louisiana on Wednesday. The NHC warned local residents to rush to complete preparations. 500,000 have been told to leave. Laura and another storm, Marco, earlier hit the Caribbean, killing 24. Marco has already struck Louisiana, bringing strong winds and heavy rains on Monday. Initially, it was feared that both storms would hit Louisiana as hurricanes within 48 hours of each other, but Marco was downgraded to a tropical storm. Laura, on the other hand, has strengthened rapidly from a Category 3, gaining 70% in power in just 24 hours to a Category 4, maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. US President Donald Trump has advised potentially affected by the storm to listen to local officials, as the storm was very dangerous and rapidly intensifying. The Trump administration yesterday imposed sanctions on Chinese officials responsible for Beijing's military buildup in the South China Sea. In a tweet, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the United States is taking action to support freedom of the seas and to oppose coercion of our Southeast Asian allies and partners. We must not allow Beijing's campaign of bullying to prevent access to vital offshore resources and damage critical ecosystems. At the same time, the Commerce Department also added 24 state-owned Chinese enterprises, including subsidiaries of the China Communications Construction Company, to its commercial blacklist for their roles in constructing artificial islands, causing major environmental damage. The move is the latest action in the U.S. pressure campaign against China that has picked up steam ahead of November's presidential election over a variety of contentious issues. Iran has agreed to give the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors access to two suspected former nuclear sites near Karaj, west of Tehran, and near Isfahan in central Iran. A joint statement said Iran was doing so in good faith to resolve outstanding issues related to nuclear safeguards. The agreement came during a visit to Tehran by IAEA's Director General. The two sides had struck a deal to end a months-long standoff over access to the sites, and that dates for inspections had been agreed. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani told IAEA chief that Iran will continue its cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog. Rouhani and Iran's nuclear chief Ali Akbar Salehi met IAEA chief Rafael Grossi in Tehran. The New Zealand court has sentenced a man who shot dead 51 people at 2 mosques to life in prison without parole. 29-year-old Brenton Tarrant pleaded guilty to the murder of 51 people, attempted murder of another 40 people, and 1 charge of terrorism. During the sentencing, he was confronted by survivors and relatives of victims. The gun attacks at the 2 mosques sent shockwaves around the world. In the wake of the killings, New Zealand brought in stricter gun laws. The sentencing hearing lasted 4 days and more than 60 victim impact statements were heard. And let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. Over 2.43 lakh people have been infected with the virus. COVID-19 has claimed the lives of over 8,29,000 people worldwide, whereas a total of more than 1.68 lakh recoveries have been recorded worldwide. The US and Brazil remain the worst affected in terms of both COVID-19 infections and fatalities. COVID-19 cases have been shooting up in the US for several weeks. It has now crossed 60 lakh positive COVID-19 cases, with the death toll surging past 1,83,000. The US is followed by Brazil, which has recorded more than 1,17,000 deaths and over 37,22,000 cases. Mexico remains the 3rd worst hit country in terms of deaths linked to COVID-19, as the country has reported over 62,000 deaths so far. And the United States remains the worst affected country with more than 60 lakh confirmed cases with 1,83,000 deaths. Washington, D.C., Illinois, California and Arizona remain the worst affected states there. The number of daily cases in the country have dropped to less than 45,000 a day in the past few weeks. And meanwhile, California signed a contract with a medical diagnostics company to ramp up testing in the state. More than double the number of daily corona cases will be carried across the state. The expanded testing capacity for 2,50,000 tests per day will help in quick isolation. And that's all in this edition of the news. Namaskar.